Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 89, NBA Conference Finals. Just got started last night with some good games. Western Conference, Eastern Conference last night. Tonight we got the Cavs, Celtics, Mavs, Thunder kicking off tonight in the final two games of game one in these conference finals. Last night had some good games. Knicks came down to the wire against the Pacers, caught the dub. We'll touch on that. And the Nuggets actually dropped game two, to Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. We're going to get into it. First, let's start off with that Knicks-Pacers game, man. The Knicks trailing, I believe, with about 2 minutes left. They were down, I think, 4 points. Came out on top with the dub. Jalen Brunson, once again, a masterclass. Your take on this one?
Yeah, this was like a fun and exciting game. You know, going into it, you got two teams that kind of play complete opposite in terms of pace and how they want to do. You know, the Pacers, one of the fastest paced teams in the NBA. They want to score quick, get out in transition. They got all those guys that can get out and run and score super, super fast. And then the Knicks, on the other hand, you know, this whole season they've been known for their defense, slowing teams down, playing super, super slow. So going into it, it was like, all right, like which way will these teams lean? Which play style, will this series kind of lean towards? And game one, the play style definitely leaned towards the Pacers. You know, looking at the over/under, I bought the Knicks hype, man. So I took the under, but the over definitely hit. This game was super fast, and we saw a lot of point scoring. But we also saw a different Knicks team, and especially down the stretch, like you mentioned, in the playoffs. When these games are so close and when they're playing, back and forth like this game was, no matter if it's fast-paced or if these teams are slowing it down, you got to have a guy that can just take over and win you the game and get you buckets. And so far, it's been Jalen Brunson. I think like 3 or 4 straight games with 40-plus points in a playoff series. The Villanova Big Three showing out. DiVincenzo hitting some big shots down the stretch. And Josh Hart, he's, played like every single minute of every single playoff game. Out there grabbing boards. He's like a double machine at this point, playing defense, hustling. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun series. I think these games will tend to lean more fast-paced as well. But when you look at the Pacers, you mentioned Halliburton, man, just kind of not showing up down the stretch. Siakam, he's been, started off hot this playoffs, coming into the series against the Knicks. Didn't have the best game. He hasn't been shooting well from the free throw line at all. It's going to be tough, but the Knicks, they got some size. Miles Turner had a decent game, actually, stretching the floor, hit a couple threes, but I think the Knicks match up good with this Pacers team. They have some of those bigger bodies for those bigger guys like Siakam and, and those guys on the Pacers. But, yeah, I just think it comes down to Jalen Brunson, who, outside of Anthony Edwards, has probably been the best player in these playoffs so far. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I think this will be a back-and-forth series as well, but I think the Knicks do edge out just a little bit just because of, they have that true bona fide number one who stepped up, unlike the Pacers.
Josh Hart, 48 minutes, another double-double. You mentioned 24 and 13. Brunson, 43 points in 44 minutes. That big three you mentioned, the Nova big three, all 20-plus points. DiVincenzo dropped 25 of his own. You had OG and Hartenstein in double figures as well, but those three players really carrying this Knicks core. I mean, you talked about Brunson, probably the second best player in these playoffs, and right now he's up there neck and neck with Ant. I mean, not trying to discredit Ant, but Brunson's been on a tear of his own. Started off a little bit slow, then he picked the pace up, and now he's looking like, Brunson before he hurt his ankle last year in the playoffs as well. You mentioned Siakam. He's come down, a little bit to earth. I mean, Halliburton, I'm just 8 assists, 6 points in 36 minutes. Just doing straight cardio out there. I mean, you want to be, one of the top point guards in the league. You're going up against Brunson. You got to do better. I mean, TJ McConnell, he had 18 points in 22 minutes. Solid. You mentioned Miles Turner. He was the best Pacers player on the floor. I mean, you just look at it. JB, he's going to have to go for 40. He knows it, and he's done it, I think, 4 straight games now for the Knicks, so it's nothing new for Brunson. he's on a tear. I think the Knicks, if Brunson just keeps his tear up, it's going to be hard for the Pacers to slow him down. Once again, it's sort of like game one in the last series for the Pacers. Need to see Halliburton be more aggressive, be better and more consistent in this series for the Pacers to win. Can't rely on, role players, big games. Miles Turner, he's solid, but you want to be a superstar in this league, you got to come out and show out in these playoffs, conference finals. And it's going to be tough for the Pacers, especially the homestand at the Knicks. You're trying to steal one before you go back to Indiana. Knicks fans travel well and all, but it's going to be a tough series for the Pacers. Gritty, they play tomorrow at 8 for game 2 in the Garden once again. So, the stars are going to be out. Lights are bright against the Knicks.
And I also feel like at this point, like with the Knicks and Brunson, like there's like some all-time stuff going on here. Like Jalen Brunson is like playing to be one of, if not the greatest Knick of all time. And I think we could easily or comfortably say at this point in our lifetimes, like I know growing up and stuff, you always hear about MSG, like, oh, it's the mecca of basketball. Like, there's so much going on. Like, everyone wants to play at MSG. Like, LeBron, he's always said, oh, MSG is the best. Curry, all these guys. But, like, for us growing up, like, it was, like, Melo, J.R. Smith. Like, those guys, like, MSG, it never held any weight. I feel like now watching the Knicks in the playoffs, watching Jalen Brunson, like, go absolutely crazy, and DiVincenzo and Hart and these guys that embody, like, the true, like, the New York atmosphere, like working hard, grinding everything out, and being successful. Like, I feel like this is what MSG and the Knicks basketball used to felt like, back in the heyday when they had Patrick Ewing and Bernard King and all these different guys, when everyone said the Knicks were so great. Like, because for us growing up, I know you can attest to being a Heat fan and stuff, like, the Knicks were never a threat. Like, yeah, Melo could go off and have some really big games, but outside of that, like Amari Stoudemire doesn't do anything. Ahmad Shepard, like none of these guys like really meant anything or held any value for the Knicks. So I think it's really cool now to see the Knicks be, one of the biggest center points in sports, not even just basketball, because when you have a big city like New York, I mean, they're going to take over the sports in general. So it's cool to see the Knicks bring relevance to a city like that growing up hasn't really had any sports relevance outside of the Giants our entire life.
Yeah. And I saw a Knicks fan. He went on a little Twitter rant. It was like, you guys, I saw this player, and it was like Emmanuel Mudiay. It was
Frank Ntilikina, like all these.
Yeah. It was like, why is his name even spelt like that? I mean, there was so many players.
Oh my gosh.
Calderon. I mean, a lot of players on the back end of their career went to New York. Stoudemire, out of his prime outside of Phoenix. Yeah, so I definitely agree with you. And literally, I guess the shining star was, Melo when he went up for 30+. That was really the only chance. The Knicks stood outside, that in the Linsanity run. They were never actually good. I mean, I think the Nets even had, a better run when Jason Kidd was a player on the Nets. Like, when we were legit. So, yeah, it's good to see MSG rocking
even more
out.
Recently, like, even before, like, the big KD and them, but even before that, like, D'Lo, when he made the All-Star game, they had Dinwiddie and all those guys, like, 2018, they made the playoffs.
It was the power of friendship. Yeah, it was like the original power of friendship over there.
Yeah.
Dudley was dancing on the sideline and everybody.
Him and Ben Simmons, that's a rivalry
moments.
that will never be forgotten, bro.
And shout out Ben Simmons. He was at the Met Gala, man, and the comments were cooking him. He had a little briefcase with the clock on it. And Ben got a clock on him and still can't show up to the court. So Ben Simmons jokes will never end, man. T-Wolves Nugs. I mean, this one was Timberwolves all the way from the end of the first quarter on. The Nuggets, they really had no answer for what the Timberwolves were doing defensively. They just put up 80 points. I mean, once again, Ant, efficient Cat doing his thing. Nickeil Alexander-Walker playing some big minutes, doing some big things. Mike Conley doing his role as the vet on the team. And then Jaden McDaniels also got a shout-out from Ant once again in the post-game presser. He had, Jamal Murray in lockdown, and there's a bunch of memes. Jamal Murray's getting everything thrown at him between Alexander Walker and Jaden McDaniel. I mean, he was locked up full court press the whole game. And then you look at the Nuggets, Aaron Gordon, probably outside of Jokic, who dropped 16 and 16. Gordon was the only other guy to step up. He dropped 20. You had Holiday, who put up solid 13, but you got Jamal Murray scoring under double figures, and I think he put up like 17 shots, only 8 points. Michael Porter, he struggled from the field with 9 as well. You can't have that going up against this Nuggets team when Ant shooting as efficient as he was. He didn't need to put up 30. He was efficient. Cat was efficient. Some of these guys didn't even need to play their full minutes outside of Anthony Edwards because the lead was so big in the fourth quarter. They were able to get in, guys that aren't in the playoff rotation for the Timberwolves. So it's going to be a tough series. It's going to rely on Jokic. I mean, they had no Gobert last game. Jokic said he'd want to clone himself for a fresher body against this T-Wolves team, and you get one without Gobert, defensive assignment, and you're unable to win this game. It's a huge loss for the Nuggets, especially, 2-0 now for Minnesota. It's going to be a tough streak, but if there's any team that could actually do it here in these playoffs, it's the Nuggets. They're the most established. They have the most experience, and they have arguably the greatest player on the planet in Nikola Jokic offensively. So far, it's been the Ant Edwards show, and we called it coming on to these playoffs on the pod. So it's nice to see it come to fruition here with Ant balling out.
Yeah, I think games 1 and 2, especially game 2, was a really big surprise. But I want to say, we could see it happen. Like me and you, we talked about it. We talked about Ant coming on and how good this Timberwolves team really was. But I just didn't see it happening like this, even though I picked the Nuggets, and I agree. Like you said, if there's any team that can come down from this 2-0 deficit on the road against a team like the Timberwolves, literally the only team that I think could do it would be the Nuggets. So it's going to be interesting. But, yeah, man, it just felt like the Nuggets felt like they were playing the Lakers again. Like, I know they just got so used to playing the Lakers. They played them last year in the Western Conference Finals, and then they play them this year in round 1. Maybe they just thought every team in the West was the Lakers, where they can just come out flat in the first quarter, in the first half, and then rally their way back in towards the end of the game. Well, when you got this Timberwolves team, that's just not the case. Defensively, they're so much better. They have all the size. Naz Reid, Cat, those guys are doing their own in the paint. And like you mentioned, Rudy Gobert in game 1 wasn't even there in game 2. And that paint defense was still really, really good for the Timberwolves. And they got those wings, guys out there running around, deflecting passes, getting out in transition. Watching the game, it's like I look up, there's just always someone in transition. If it's Anthony Edwards and Nikhil, Alexander Walker, those guys are just getting out there running off of turnovers, creating quick, easy buckets for the offense. And when you look at the Nuggets, there wasn't really much of that. There was more of, Jokic bring the ball up, them trying to slow it down and get to their stuff, where the Timberwolves were just out there playing fast. And you mentioned Anthony Edwards. He didn't even have that crazy of a game because he just didn't need to. Like, the Timberwolves were just playing better basketball on pretty much every single level. Edwards did heat up a little bit in game 2 towards the end, made a big 3 and hit the Jordan shrug right after saying, "Don't compare me to Jordan," which is kind of ironic. It's funny. Like,
I think
Ant knows
he
what
did
he's
that.
doing.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, at this point, we know what it is, bro. Like, we know what he's doing. So it's just fun to see that in the storyline. But for the Nuggets, there's some real concern, man. Like, if Jokic doesn't have a great game or, damn near a triple-double, it just seems like they don't really have much else to go to in terms of, Jamal Murray, like you mentioned. He hasn't had the best 2 games. Cuz McDaniels has been playing really good defense on him. And then Aaron Gordon, how much can you rely on? Porter Jr., his streaky 3-point shooting. It's just like they need more from their role players. I believe they were saying, last year in the playoffs, Aaron Gordon was shooting 41% from 3 in the postseason. You're gonna need that from him again this offseason, especially here against the Timberwolves, where they're going out and scoring a bunch of points big. And it just seems like if Jokic isn't scoring the ball, the Nuggets have no offense at this point against this Timberwolves defense. I mean, they're picking up Murray, full court, trying to trap him. As soon as he passes half court, they're jumping passing lanes. Like, this Timberwolves defense is ferocious. They're aggressive. They're jumping at everything, and they're not giving these guys any breathing room where, watching the Lakers, Nikola Jokic is dribbling the ball all the way up, and Anthony Davis isn't picking him up until he gets to, the free throw line. Or Jamal Murray is able to get the screen and roll super easy. They're not switching. No one's really doing anything against the Lakers and some of these other teams, whereas the Timberwolves are up on every screen. They're helping. They're switching. They're sending two at Jokic, making it difficult, making him make the hard pass. Like, the Timberwolves are just playing with really, really high energy. And then these guys that are coming off the bench, Naz Reid, he just couldn't miss from three last night. He's had a really, really good series. Also had a couple good defensive matchups against Jokic last game as well. Like you mentioned, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's hit some big shots for them down the stretch as well, giving them some good offensive firepower off the bench. And then you got guys like Anthony Edwards-Cat. He's going to get his 15 to 20 just because he's so big and skilled, hit a couple threes as well. So this Minnesota Timberwolves team feels very, very complete. And I know coming in, I said, whoever wins this series is looking like they could possibly, win the finals, win the championship. Well, right now it's not looking even close. It's not looking like a contest. So I think the Nuggets, they can come back and make it interesting, but at this point, it's hard for me to see them coming back and win this series. It looks like the Timberwolves have complete and total control over the Nuggets right now.
No doubt. First game on tonight, Cavs-Celtics in Boston, man. Cavs were able to win in 7 in the first round after trailing by 18 against the Magic. They're going to face a much tougher opponent in the Boston Celtics. Much more playoff experience, veteran leadership on that side. And, I mean, it's really going to come down to, obviously Donovan Mitchell carried this team to this point right now. Can Garland step up? Can guys of Evan Mobley, Jared Allen do their work? And can they play a clean defensive game? We know the Celtics, they like to rain them from three. Can they slow down that three ball from the Boston Celtics? It's going to be a tough task for the Cavs. I mean, this is probably, the Celtics playing a Jimmy-less Heat, Rozier-less Heat. I mean, right now they got the easy path in the East, at least so far, playing this Cavs team that's been banged up all year. We still know Mitchell's not 100%. We know Garland's not 100%. They've both been banged up all year long, and still they've made it to this point. They've persevered. Mitchell, he's had some big playoff moments in Utah in his younger days. Question is, can he do it in Cleveland? I think, there's a chance just because of my pure dislike for the Boston Celtics. I think they have a chance. But, I mean, if KP's healthy and he's playing ball and Horford's doing what he did in the last series and you got Derek White, I think it's going to be too much for the Cleveland Cavaliers to kind of throw at this roster. So we'll see with this one. I mean, I could really see it being a gentleman's sweep here for the Celtics, but what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a different beast for the Cavaliers because when you look at their matchup with the Magic, it went 7, and literally the only person they had to outlast offensively was Paolo. He was the only consistent scorer. Well, for the Cavs, when you look at the Celtics team, especially if Porzingis is playing, like their entire starting five can legit go out and give you consistent buckets. I mean, as a Heat fan, you saw the Derek White game. We know what Drew Holiday is capable of at the one. We saw him with the run at on the Bucks and what he's been able to do this past season. Drew Holiday can go out and give you buckets. And then you look at the two wings, the two guys this team is built around with Tatum and Brown. Those are two All NBA high caliber players. I mean, 20, 25 a game. They're gonna go out and they're gonna score. So the Cavaliers are gonna have to keep up with a lot. I do agree with you when you mention Porzingis' health. The only slim, maybe possible chance the Cavs have is they could possibly give the Celtics some issues with their size when they have Mobley and Allen on the court, and maybe they just have a crazy game where they dominate the paint offensively and defensively, and if some outer world stuff happens and those guys get hot, and then Donovan Mitchell keeps up his insane scoring and Darius Garland finally comes along. Like I can see how it can happen. I don't think it will happen. There's a very, very slim chance it'll happen, but that's gonna have to be their key to success. But I'm with you overall. Like maybe a gentleman's sweep at best. I just think, like you mentioned, this Celtics team is too deep. Even without Porzingis, you look at guys like Hauser, Pritchard come off the bench. They can give you a quick 10, 15, hit a couple threes, and then you just look up and like, we were just in this game. It was just a 6-point lead, and now we're down by 18. Like it can get ugly. this Celtics team, especially, not really a rivalry, but playing against the Cavs and, what LeBron did to them in the early Tatum days, game 7, Cavs put them away. So little vengeance here maybe for the Celtics. Like, oh, you guys don't have LeBron anymore. Let's see how good you really are. So, yeah, I'm with you. This I don't think it'll be that competitive of a series, and I think there's a very, very slim way the Cavs can win, but I don't see it happen. Celtics cruise to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Jared Allen also questionable with those bruised ribs that he missed Game 7 with. So
yeah,
he's on the injury report for Cleveland. Health, once again, mentioned it. Health is an issue in Cleveland as well. Mavs Thunder tonight, 9:30. Kyrie, I think it was like 10 a.m. I saw him get up 800 shots already. It was just kind of crazy. They said Kyrie hasn't looked this happy. He probably hasn't looked that happy since Cleveland, honestly. So,
yeah,
happy for Kyrie. It's going to be the Luka Kyrie show. We know in Dallas, those two guys got to be scoring the rock. They face, the young guns in the OKC Thunder. They're going to throw everything at you between, Shea, Chet, all those guys. They all contribute. Giddey, the Williams, and you got, lockdown Dort on the perimeter. Going to be interesting, probably be on Luka this whole series. He's locked down some big names in the past before.
Dortch chamber.
That's what I was looking for, man. I mean, the lockdowns, though. I mean, Dort, it's really going to be a tough task, guarding Luka all series. Can you slow him down? Saw Luka kind of struggle early on in that Clippers series. Thunder kind of hoping for the same thing, but it's the SGA campaign. It's going to be, he's still young, but he's the leader of this team. He's probably the oldest, contributor on this roster. He might even be like the oldest player on the roster.
Probably. They just signed Gordon Hayward at the deadline, so
okay.
Yeah, we'll give him the vet nod.
The 12th man off the bench is older than, the starting point guard and superstar of this team. So, Luka has some playoff experience. He's been in the league for a little minute. That's the real question in this series. Will experience play a factor? I think this Thunder team's playing, free. They're playing loose. But if the Mavs can push their backs up against the wall, will they fold under that pressure? That's what I'm seeing. I think this is going to be a good one, kind of like we thought the Wolves-Nuggets would start off. This one also an entertaining series on paper. Hopefully it lives up to the hype. You could see it going 7. I'm going to sit back, and I've been, I'm rocking with the Thunder, man. I'm going to take them. I'm gonna say in 6. Thunder in 6. They got home court advantage coming on, but if it goes 7 or the Mavs win this, it wouldn't surprise me at all. This Thunder team is still very, very, very young, so they have a bright future. But that Mavs team is built to win right now. So,
yeah, you kind of touched on what my first initial thoughts were with this series. Whereas this once again the Mavs are look to be in the best series of this round. Like you mentioned, everyone thought it was going to be the Timberwolves and Nuggets. We thought it was going to be as well, but the 2-0 lead the Timberwolves jump out on it. It just doesn't look like that's going to be as good of a series as this Thunder Mavs matchup can potentially be. And you mentioned that Mavs backcourt, man, Kyrie and Luka, they've been on fire this playoff so far. Pretty much crushing the Clippers the last couple of games. Once they got their rhythm, once they got everything figured out. I know Kyrie missed the last couple of games of the season. So once they got that chemistry back, everyone playing back together, they kind of went on cruise control. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Thunder do. I do like, they can throw Lou Dort. Jalen Williams is also a solid perimeter defender. Throw him at Kyrie and Luka. And SGA, he's known for his scoring and how good of an offensive player is. He does have some nice length on the perimeter. He can, if he gets in the switch or whatever, he can provide some solid defense on the perimeter as well. So, it's going to be tough on those perimeter guys, I think, defensively, because once you get past those perimeter guys, yeah, Shed is there, but outside of that, there's really no one else in the paint. So if Shed's able to hold up and be kind of like that last line of defense from those perimeter guys, I think this Thunder team could really, really do something special in this series. But I don't think the Mavs have anyone that they can throw or kind of give as much trouble. When you look at SGA, like, you got Derrick Jones Jr., maybe, like Dante Exum, PJ Washington. Is he too big? Do you want to have him on SGA? Like, are there better matchups? Because if you just have Luka and Kyrie, SGA is gonna hunt them all day. Like, that's what they want. They want to find those matchups. So I think Shea is gonna be the key piece here to where maybe he can kind of take over just because he has more of a supporting cast on the perimeter. So I think it's gonna be a good matchup though. Like you mentioned, man, I could see it go 6 or 7. I think I'm gonna pick the Thunder as well, but I mean, Luka in the playoffs, Kyrie in the playoffs. These guys have been known to have big playoff moments. Kyrie, he just scored like 30 points in the second half of Game 6. Luka, we saw what he's done. He's hitting big shot after big shot. He can go off and give you 50 any given game. So it's not going to be a cakewalk for the Thunder. I think the Mavs do make it competitive. I think they could easily win as well. I just think the Thunder are a little too deep, and that home court advantage is going to play key in a series like this. They just got too many guys. They can go to the bench. I think they have a couple more options offensively, and they have a couple more answers defensively than the Mavericks do. But, I mean, it just comes down to what Luka and Kyrie can do for the Mavs. So I think this will be a fun and exciting series as well. But, yeah, I'm going to be with you, and I'm going to pick the Thunder in this one.
Yeah, the Mavericks might need some help in the paint from their big men as well, because you mentioned that perimeter looks weak. Mm-hmm. With Luka and Kyrie, if SGA gets to the rack, will they be able to protect the rim?
Injuries, too, kind of holding back the Mavs as well.
They've been banged up, yeah. Especially in the paint.
Josh Green, who just went out, or Kleber went out with the shoulder.
I think it was Kleber.
Yeah, Kleber went out with the shoulder against the Clippers, and, you know, he's someone that can be really versatile with them, kind of, you know, give them some help at the 5 spot, because you got guys like Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. Those are the more traditional big, you know, 5s, whereas you throw in Kleber, he can kind of add you some more spacing, a little bit more offense, a little more flexibility. If the Thunder come out and when Chet's not in the game, they tend to go small with the other Jalen Williams. So a little versatility there that I think will hurt their depth, but ultimately, like you mentioned, man, it's going to be a close series.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, the Thunder cakewalk in the first round for them. That's why I mentioned that pressure. If they feel a little bit of it, will they fold? Because although they won the first round, there wasn't any true test, you know, for the Thunder against the Pelicans. They threw some good games at them.
Game 1, there was a little bit where, you know, SGA came down and hit the clutch and won. But ever since then, it was really no other adversity.
That team was banged up too. I mean, B.I. was hurt, Zion banged up. I mean, McCollum just washed. You know, you had like Trey Murphy. I think he had one crazy game or something like that.
Yeah, he was. No, I think that was game 1 where he was in everything from deep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's first true test for this team, and
yeah,
we'll see if SGA's really got it. You know, he carries himself as a guy that's kind of been in this league for a long time. He's definitely, you know, mature for his age. He's been in the league for, you know, some years now, but really sat behind, took his time, learned the game, and he's progressed as, you know, one of the league's best point guards. And you mentioned that length on the outside. I could see him, you know, getting a couple steals in the passing lane, but, you know, one-on-one against Kyrie, obviously Kyrie, best ball handler. He's going to be, you know, having a field day trying to shake him out, but I really like this one. I'm excited. 9:30 tonight for Game 1. It's going to be an exciting one.
And just looking back really quick on that Paul George SGA trade, just because we were talking about him, like that's looking like one of arguably the worst trades in NBA history. Like if you look at it now, like you would never even think about trading SGA straight up for Paul George just for what he became. On top of that, all the first round picks, everything else they threw into it, like that's just the Thunder clearly won that trade. Let's just say that.
No doubt. And it's not even like PG's been banged up, and then this playoff run did not help his case where, you know, he had a couple solid games and then just fell off kind of the face of the planet. Now
he's hitting free agency. Will he even come back to the Clippers? Yeah, exactly. Like there's rumors like, you know, he's going to the Sixers, the Magic. He might go out east. Like I believe I saw a report saying
back to Indy.
I mean, I don't know if they have the money just because they got Siakam, Turner, everyone. But, you know, I saw a report saying the Clippers offered Paul George, like, multiple contract extensions that weren't the max, and he turned all of them down. So, yeah, I mean, Ballmer's got to open up that new arena. Everyone's making a big deal about this new arena. You got to have stars. But, like, I mean, are these the stars you want? Like aging guys that don't ever play,
Kawhi,
and they
I
don't get
mean,
you anywhere deep in the playoffs. Like,
it,
fam, if that's the case, they might as well just bring back John Wall, bro. Like, he fits perfectly, dog. Like, if that's what they gonna do, bro, just bring him back, fam. Like, let's be real.
well, I was gonna say, someone did say, I feel like we say this every year, and it was if Kawhi was healthy, they would have swept the Mavericks. So big if. I mean, it's been a question mark. Last time we saw Kawhi fully healthy, he won a championship in Toronto.
But even if Kawhi wasn't healthy, like that's why you bring in, why you
Paul
brought over
George, yeah.
Paul George,
You
why you
got a
bring in a
James
James
Harden.
Harden, why you love what Westbrook did last year for you. You got him coming off the bench. He became unplayable down the stretch in this series.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, he was, what was he shooting? April dates 4 for 32, they
man,
said. And
shooting
it is-
Jamal Murray dates in game 2 last night. Yeah,
Yeah, that Jay Murray, man. He's been in lockdown. I mean, it's 24-hour surveillance on Murray, and it's gonna be a tough task. We'll see with this series, Mavs Thunder. I think this one will live up to the hype. I'm just saying at this point. We said
yeah.
Nuggets were gonna live up to the hype, but I mean, no one's actually seen the Nuggets get dethroned in a very long time. So
It's been a couple years. Yeah.
and if the Nuggets do get bounced, there is a case where, either Tatum gets his first ring, Mitchell gets his first ring, SGA.
Mitchell not getting a ring.
I'm just saying, like, the teams left. Mitchell, SGA, Luka,
Alright.
and Kyrie. Kyrie get his second ring, his first one without LeBron in that Cleveland run. So one of these guys.
Halliburton get his first ring. Like, come on.
Halliburton,
That's
yeah.
not
You're right.
happening.
Not with the way he's playing. I mean,
It's the Celtics, maybe the Knicks, barring a miracle.
Brunson,
out the
yep.
East. And then either at that point, any of the West teams I think could come
I
out.
think the West is a powerhouse here, and
Well, it's been like that all season. But I
yeah,
just think once the Nuggets go down, I think any 3 of those teams out West could beat each other.
Oh,
and win the ring.
100%. Yeah, any given night, they just gotta stay hot. That's what the playoffs are about, man. So we'll see, man. We'll be, next week, we'll get later in these series and really touch on these, man. You got any last comments, takes, anything like that?
Oh man, we're in the thick of it. Playoff basketball, man. This is what it's about.
Getting ready for that June playoff, NBA Finals, summer. That's the feeling when you get the summer, man. The NBA Finals are here, so starting to heat up. I know Florida's always hot, but it's starting to heat up around those other states, man. So go, episode 89, go pod on TikTok, go YouTube, Apple, Spotify streams, all that. Go ahead, like, comment, share, sub, do all that. And until next week, we'll be back with another episode, man. Peace.